Hi everyone, it's really great to have you all here today, and I'm already looking forward to the live Q&A session that will follow my presentation. Please feel free to submit your questions during my presentation. You can do so in the question box. And as always, we would love to hear your thoughts on social media as well. You can live tweet using the hashtag #EngageX. My name is Marcia Goddard, and I'm a neuroscientist working at EngageX Serious Games. I've worked in academia for a number of years, but decided that I wanted to bring science and business together, which is why I moved from the university into the recruitment industry about 5 years ago. I set up a science and innovation department within one of the Netherlands' largest recruitment agencies, Young Capital, before continuing my research with EngageX Serious Games. Now, EngageX has been developing serious games for over 20 years, and it's a full-service agency that works mainly with large organizations all over the world. At the core of what we do is creating positive behavioral change using gamification and serious gaming. One of the main research areas in my role here is performance under high pressure and constant change. Now, as we all know, that has never been more relevant than it is right now. While digital transformation and all the things that go with it have been this kind of continuous process that kind of felt like a transformation, but at the same time didn't really feel like a massive shift happening at one specific point in time, COVID-19 is very different. Most of us were locked down pretty much overnight. So from one day to the next, we couldn't leave our houses, and we had to figure out a way to remain functional, both personally and professionally, in an environment in which human contact was discouraged and in some cases even illegal. Now, how do you deal with a situation like that? Over the past few months, I've been sharing a lot of tips on coping with stress during these chaotic times. I certainly hope that for most of you, the acute phase of this COVID situation has now passed and you are focused on what's coming next. Now, we all know that the global economic outlook is not great. People and organizations will be dealing with significant amounts of uncertainty over the next few years. Now, fortunately, I've been studying these circumstances for almost 5 years, and I wanted to share some of that research with you today. I will be talking about how the brain deals with uncertainty, how a physiological stress response can actually lead to growth, and how the skills underlying resilience are the deciding factor in determining whether people and organizations are able to achieve positive growth in times like these. I will also give you a sneak peek at our latest project, a serious game specifically aimed at training people in dealing with uncertainty, unpredictability, and constant change under high pressure. Let's start at the very beginning. Over the past year, we've developed a theoretical model that describes the way our brain processes uncertainty and what we need to help our brains frame that uncertainty in a more constructive way. The original model describes a number of triggers that are present on the 21st century work floor. In short, factors like digital transformation, skill shortage, employer branding, sustainability, GDPR, and other aspects of the 21st century work floor have created a work environment that is dominated by constant and continuous change. No 2 years in business are the same anymore. In the past, you would have a job, and that job would not change substantially during your career. Today, it's almost impossible to predict what your job will look like 5 years from now. Nobody knows what they will be doing by the time they retire. Now, this situation leads to unpredictability, which invariably leads to stress because that's just the way our brains work. Our brains thrive on the ability to predict what is going to happen next. And if it cannot predict that anymore, it triggers a physiological stress response. This stress response can be framed as a threat or as a challenge. If it is framed as a threat, it leads to behavioral rigidity, which is detrimental to performance. If it is framed as a challenge, it leads to resilience, which will boost performance under pressure. Now, our hypothesis is that an entrepreneurial mindset, demonstrated by behaviors associated with 7 soft skills, is the main determinant of the ability to frame change, unpredictability, and the subsequent stress response as a challenge. These 7 skills are creativity, critical thinking, flexibility, collaboration, perspective taking, ownership, and innovation. Now, looking at the current situation, the relationship within the model between the different factors remain the same. However, there is one significant change. All triggers in this model pale in comparison to the one trigger that we will be dealing with for the next few years: economic instability. Nobody knows what next year will look like business-wise. Right now, most of us don't even know what the next few months will look like. COVID-19 is having a major impact on all aspects of our lives, and it will be hard to predict where we stand when all of this is over. The only thing everyone does seem to agree on is that the economic consequences will impact every single one of us. And it's difficult to prepare for something as unpredictable as this, but our entrepreneurial mindset model does describe the skills that can help your organization weather the storm. Training these skills will be imperative to adequately deal with whatever is coming. I would like to give you an example from the world of sports. Formula One motor racing is a sport dominated by constant change and incredibly high pressure to perform. Teams that cannot keep up will end up losing their place on the grid. And the FIA, the governing body of motorsports, imposes new regulations every season that forces the competing teams to develop almost an entirely new car. They have to operate within the confines of those regulations and yet find a way to develop a car that will give them an edge over their competitors. This is the perfect metaphor for the situation organizations find themselves in right now. The current situation is forcing organizations to overhaul their business models, pivot into new markets, or just start over completely. The more adaptable you are, the more likely you are to survive. I want to show you a video of one of the top teams in Formula One, Red Bull Racing, that perfectly illustrates the value of skills like creativity, flexibility, and perspective taking in high pressure, fast changing situations. Now, while you're watching the video, it would be great if you could share your thoughts on what skills stand out to you.
Radio check.
Loud and clear.
It's lights out, away we go. Verstappen gets an awful start. He's already been bypassed by the two Mercedes, Norris and Raikkonen as well.
I think he went into anti-stall.
Okay, Max, obviously try and get past Norwich as quickly as possible, but do try to cool your front brakes.
I need more power, mate. He's scripting a lot.
Okay, when you think you're close to an overtake, Max, just click the overtake, but it will cost you some more clips elsewhere. DRS enabled.
That'll please the Dutch crowd here.
Okay, well done, Max. Let's go mode 9 to increase SOP.
Out of turn one, low RPM.
That's a good lap, Max. Keep it up. Okay, Max, you can see the gains. Keep chipping away. Box and pick confirm, Max. Box, pick confirm. That's Vettel ahead of you. 3.6 seconds.
Are we catching the Mercedes?
Yes is the answer. Come on, mate. Let's get it done early. Let's do it.
Verstappen, there's no stopping him today.
Get it, boys.
Yes, boys, come on.
Yes, boys, indeed. Bottas 2.8 ahead.
Do you think you can hold Verstappen behind?
Let's replace Max. Keep it up, mate.
Oh, yes.
All right, this is game on. Leclerc's at turn 4. Game on.
Gap to Verstappen behind, 4.3. So now Verstappen is behind you, 3 seconds. 1 second.
Leave me alone.
Leclerc knows what's coming. What a battle this has been.
Early start. He turned in on me.
Mate, there was nothing wrong with that, mate. Nothing wrong with it.
Yep, boys, come on. Yes.
Max, you drove a mighty race. You are the man.
It was amazing. The pace of the car was incredible. Great job, boys. We are definitely catching them. Good job. Great job all weekend.
Okay, so what did you see here? You may have noticed that Max Verstappen, the driver, had a horrible start. His team didn't judge him though, but instead focused on what he had to do in order to make up the places that he lost. Not judging when someone makes a mistake is an example of one of the behaviors underlying both perspective taking and collaboration. And instead of dwelling on what went wrong, they went straight into problem-solving mode, which is an example of critical thinking and creativity. They adjusted their strategy to fight their way back up the grid, which is an example of flexibility and ownership. They handled the engine problems that Max was experiencing by allowing him to use the overtake button, which is an example of innovation using experimentation. And they kept that engine going all the way until the checkered flag, with an impressive demonstration of collaboration, not only between Max and his race engineer, but between Max, his engineer, his entire team, both at the track in Austria and at the factory in the UK, as well as the entire Honda team, both at the track and in the factory in Japan.